Hey, everybody, welcome to today's webinar. As businesses continue to navigate operations during the pandemic, it's super critical to start thinking about adapting your sales and marketing programs. Top performing restoration companies have already started pouring steam into their sales programs to make sure they finish 2020 strong. So it's probably time, if you haven't thought about it already, that your restoration business starts doing something similar, no matter how big or how small. So in this webinar, we're going to be going over how to supercharge your sales, especially in light of all the shifts that have happened mid-March. So to that end, I'm super pleased to introduce you to our expert panelist, John Monroe with Violand Management. So John has been a key member of Violand Management since 2015. John possesses an outstanding track record of establishing new client relationships, develop new business for optimum revenues, and as a leading authority in sales, sales management, and entrepreneurship, John is a thrilling and compelling panelist you'll no doubt want to hear from. My name is Zach Johnson from KnowHow, where we make it really easy for every team member to instantly access free, expert-built template processes from any device, and for you to know if your teams are following that process wherever you're located. So today we're going to be going over a strategic sales process. But make sure to check out our COVID-19 processes, as well as operations, tech management, sales, marketing, etc. So before we get started here, I just want to thank our industry partners. So we want to thank Ask Amy. We want to thank Violand Management Associates. We want to thank Business Mentors, and we want to thank Core Group. So to kick off here for our panelist, John, the opening question is, this is the big one, has the sales process changed since March 2020?
Wow, Zach, that may take the whole hour to talk about here, but no, Zach, thanks for inviting me, and I appreciate KnowHow letting me participate in your videos and your webinars, and really looking forward to a great discussion today. So with that, yes, has the sales process changed? And it most definitely has. You know, I talk to salespeople on a daily basis, and I tell them my first comment is I say, look, if you're doing what you did pre-March 13th, you're running in the wrong direction. Today, you can't, in sales, you know, I'm not saying you abandon your sales playbook. Okay, you wrote a sales plan back in January or December, and you had a target market that you were going to go after. But I'm not saying you abandon that target market. What I'm saying to you is, as a salesperson, the approach and the action steps that you had set out probably are not going to work after March 13th, after we went into the shelter in place and, of course, social distancing era that we're in today. So, yeah, the market, the sales process and the sales activities, 100% change, probably 180% change, or different direction than what you were doing pre-March 13th.
Gotcha. Okay, so anybody listening, we're going to start to unpack this a little bit. So grab your notepads, your voice recorders, whatever you need. So John, maybe we'll kind of start from the top then. What are some of the things that you've advised salespeople to do and trained salespeople to do to adapt, kind of just maybe from step one?
Yeah, so from what I've been advising, and look, the number one thing we as salespeople want to go out and knock on doors and have face-to-face contact. That's what makes us special. Is salespeople like doing that. They like being in front of customers. And today, you know, majority of the salespeople that I talk to today, I would say 50% of the people they want to call on are not either in the office or their offices aren't open. So what do you do? I mean, if 50% of your client base is not acceptable or not allowing you to come into their offices, how do you connect with them? I mean, do you just say, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to see them? No, you've got to find new ways to connect with them. And so that's really the challenge of today for a salesperson is, how do I connect with my client base? How do I connect with a new client that I've never met before if I can't go see them in person? And I would say the first thing is, we've all got to get better at our phone skills. We've got to relearn how to talk on the phone. And I will tell you that when I talk to owners or HR people, and I say, you know, what are we looking for? Pre-13, I would never have said we were looking for phone skills. today, and I say pre-13, March 13th, sorry. Today, that's a definite must in the salesperson's ability to do a good job in sales, is being able to talk on the phone. The other one is like this, being able to do video conferencing. You have to get very comfortable being able to look at a computer screen and look at somebody in a little box in front of you. And of course, you're seeing yourself at the same time, and be able to hold a meaningful conversation. And that sounds easy, but if you're not comfortable with that process, again, that can be a big challenge. So learning to communicate, a new form of communication, Zach, is really the fundamental thing that I've been focusing on with sales reps.
Gotcha. So you actually, it's going back, even 20, 25 years then, where phone skills were just more important probably than they are now.
Absolutely. Back to the basics. Yeah, that's very true.
So how do you work on that? What are some things that you do? So someone who's used to selling in person or going in person, how do you take and start utilizing the skill sets they have, and transferring them over?
That's great. And so, okay, in order to, have and look, I think that this part of the sales process, whether you're in person or you're doing it over the phone, this part is really the same process. And that is, you have to do your homework, right? You need to know something about the person you're talking to on the other end, whether it's in person or over the phone or through a video conference call. You need to be prepared for the sales meeting, for your sales presentation. And that hasn't changed. That's the same pre-March 13th and now today, September 2nd. You need to be prepared for a good conversation. Here's what has changed, though, and that is your customer's needs and pains. So when I say you do your research on your client or the potential customer you're wanting to do work with, you need to understand their needs and pains. That was the pre-March 13th, and that is today. You needed to know their needs and pains. However, their needs and pains have changed as we're in this new era, right? I mean, they've got new challenges themselves. If you're calling on insurance agents, or if you're calling on a commercial property manager or a residential property manager, they have new pains. They have new needs that weren't there pre-March 13th. So you need to understand, and I say this to the salespeople, Zach, on a regular basis, is you need to hop on the internet and you need to start researching the industry or the target market that you're going to call on. If you're calling on insurance agents, start researching what are issues that insurance agents are facing today. They can't meet with their clients just like you can't meet with your clients face to face. So that's an issue for them. How do they sell insurance if they can't sit down with the customer in their office or their home? How do they sell the insurance policy, right? Okay, so that's a new pain for them. You, as a sales rep, and look, is this going to be something that's going to generate restoration sales by teaching them how to sell virtually? No, but remember, our job as a salesperson is to always help our clients better themselves and become better at retaining and building their client base. That's our job as a salesperson. No matter whether you're selling widgets or you're selling restoration services or roofing materials or whatever, your job as a salesperson is to help build and retain your client's customer base. That's one of your first jobs. That can be taken a lot of different ways, Zach. But again, focus on learning your client's needs and pains. Got kind of off track there. I'll bring myself back in. And sorry, I'm a sales guy. So recognize their needs and pains, Zach, and learn to have a good opening conversation with your customer. Begin that process, no matter whether phone or video conference or in person. Have some questions that you want to ask that customer. Always open-ended questions. Begin it. Say, I understand some of the pains of your industry. This is what I understand in talking to other people in the industry. Tell me, Zach, what are some of your pains you're experiencing? Are you experiencing any of the industry pains? That's the way you want to start your conversations out, and you need to have some knowledge about their business or about their industry.
Okay. So the way I was taught sales is, yeah, you get to know them a little bit, whether you call that rapport or you do some research, and then you try and uncover the root need at some point in time or pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very
So,
much so, Zach, because think about it today, you could walk into somebody's office and Zach, if I walk in and sit down in your office, it's a little challenging for you to throw me out of your office like really quickly, right? You're going to be polite. You could be,
could call
a real
security,
hard.
but probably
Yeah,
not.
yeah, you could, but it's a little more challenging. You're on the phone and you're talking to a client. It's real easy for them to say, Zach, I got to go. I've got somebody in my office. I got to cut you off. And boom, you're gone in a minute. So you better be well prepared for that first conversation, and I better get your attention quickly. And I don't want to get on the phone and start playing 21 questions with you because you're going to hang up on me, right? So I need to establish with you some sort of rapport that I understand your business. I don't want to say I'm an expert at it, but I want to show that I understand that you need help, and then I want to start investigating how can I help you.
Right. So actually, if we were to contrast rapport and pre-research and knowing your client is way more important than it was even before, because you don't have the grace of being able to use just body language to plead with them.
Absolutely. And I don't have the ability to look around the room. This is a trick that all of us salespeople use, looking around the room and looking at pictures on the wall or things on your
golf
desk.
Clubs in a corner.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we start talking about golf or baseball or football or whatever. I don't have that ability. I'm talking to a voice on a phone. So yeah, absolutely. Great point, Zach.
It's a little hard to compliment someone's voice. You have a great baritone. Like
there you go. Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
So the pre-research allows you to do some of that looking around on the internet ahead of time.
Absolutely. And Zach, here's looking around, that's a great point. So how do I get to know Zach? And we all have done this, KnowHow and Violand, you guys were all connected on LinkedIn, right? So you guys go on LinkedIn, you start finding out about John Monroe, and should you have him on your show, or should you have Violand on your show, right? And by the same token, I hop on and I look at who Zach is and Leighton and Corbin and Travis, and I find out, I want to find out something about you guys. And LinkedIn allows me to find out a little bit about who you are, where you've been. It doesn't tell me as much about your sporting events possibly, or what your likes are, or too much maybe about your family. I suppose I could be I guess as my kids call it, a creeper, and I could go on Facebook and start creeping on Facebook and find out a little bit more about your personal life. But again, yeah, that's you got to be careful with, because I get on the phone and I start saying to Zach, "Oh, so Zach, I know you have 3 kids. How are they?" And you go, "I don't even know you. How do you know I have 3 kids, you weirdo?" Yeah, so you have to be a little careful there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the shirt you were wearing yesterday. It doesn't really go over so
well.
well.
Exactly. Okay. Shall I call security again, maybe? Should I call the police?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So you could maybe do some of that research, but you have to very carefully introduce it naturally into a conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
But LinkedIn is the professional place to start. And it's easy because people expect you to look them on LinkedIn.
That's right.
To some extent.
That's right. And it lets me know, I can say, and you probably aren't going to think anything about it. I can say, Zach, I was on your LinkedIn profile and realized that you actually worked, at this other location. And, I know so-and-so over there. Again, that's not as creepy or strange if I start doing that. That's acceptable practice in the business world, is to start looking into somebody, as far as a professional standpoint. I think, and it's probably actually a good starting point.
So actually, to anybody listening, then just actionable tips is to go look at someone's LinkedIn profile, make note of some of the other jobs they've had. Maybe sometimes people put a little something in their bio, like they like fantasy football or whatever it might be. But then find a parallel or find something else that you can jump off with. So like the weather in that location, or maybe they had a position that you have a friend who has that position, but then you find a commonality and then you can engage rapport from there.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Zach. And you also look at what you're posting out there, right? If you're on LinkedIn and you're sharing or posting things on LinkedIn, look at what you're posting, because that also helps me understand, what your likes are, or what you're following in possibly the business world, or I suppose you could even follow something in somebody, you're following the consulting world and you're following John Monroe. So hey, let's talk about how's John Monroe helping you. Absolutely, those kind of things for sure. That's a great point. Great takeaway.
So something related. So you actually just need to be actually a little bit more creative in the way that you build rapport, but that has to be pre-done, pre-researched.
Exactly. And I think that's a good thing, Zach. I look back, you made an interesting point, going back 25 years ago. And I think that's something that we all use pre-internet and travel. When we had large territories, we had to do some research and find it. You didn't just Google people back then, or go on LinkedIn. You had to do some real hardcore research to understand who your client was that you were calling on. And I think that's a skill set that we've all lost, because of the way we sell today. So I think this is a good thing. I think it makes you realize you need to understand more about your customer than ever. I think it's a good tool to really, and it builds a deeper rapport with your client base if you understand where they are coming from and who they are. I think it's a much deeper relationship.
Totally. Cool. Okay. So then if you spend some time, you make sure you get some good rapport pretty quick. Obviously, you weave that into the rest of the sales process. But on the phone, when you ask for needs, or you're diving into what their root need might be, has anything changed from kind of pre-March 13?
Yeah, and again, this is going to kind of depend on the industry you're in, but especially in the restoration industry. Okay, so my goal is I want to, of course, earn the right in case you have a disaster in your building or your client. If I'm calling on you as an insurance agent or a realtor, I want to build a rapport with you so that you'll send your clients to me when they have a disaster in their home, right? And so, the questioning has to definitely change with how you're asking your client, or when you're sitting down with that insurance agent. You need to be able to say to them, going back to what I was talking about, is, what are some of your issues as an insurance agent? What has changed since March 13th till now? What are some of the issues you're having, and how can I help you with those issues? One of the big changes in the insurance industry right now is a lot of adjusters are still not going out on job sites to investigate the damage to homes. So how can a restoration company help the adjuster with that? And one of the big things right now is Matterport, or 3D imaging cameras. It's a huge market. Matter of fact, I was talking to a group a month ago, and there are actually companies out there making a living. There are people making a living just doing Matterporting of homes, because think about the real estate market. People don't want you in their home anymore. They prefer you to not just start walking around touching their belongings in their home, yet they want to sell their home. if you have a 3D imaging or a 3D view of your house and put that out on the internet, or the realtor puts it out there, now I can walk through your house without going through it and touching everything. So again, there's opportunity from a restoration standpoint. We use Matterporting 3D imaging to uh, uh, scan the house and be able to capture all the damage to the house, right? Well, we now can use this to send to the adjuster and help the adjuster in their job without them going out on the job site and risking their health or their issue of getting COVID. So again, these are discussions that we can have with the insurance agent and talk about how our company can help them with their processes. And so, yes, there is a big change in the questioning, and there is a need to look at the questions you ask a little differently than you did pre-March 13th.
Okay. So then I guess it comes back to research, but recognizing what's out there as useful tools is really important.
Absolutely, for sure. You've got to know more than ever what your clients' needs are. I think that if you're not doing your research, you're probably not going to finish the year of 2020 very strong. One of my favorite points that I tell salespeople today is it takes, on average, you've heard this statistic out there, it takes 7 to 10 touches in approximately a 4 to 6 week period to get to the table of closing. That closing could be the agent saying, okay, I'm going to give you business, or I'm going to refer my clients, or the commercial property manager saying, okay, we'll call you now. We're going to agree in principle that if we have a disaster in our building or a water mitigation job, we're going to call you. That takes 7 to 10 touches on average to get to that point. Okay, what does the 7 to 10 touches, what are you talking about in that point, right? Or how are you touching the end user? Remember, you may never even get to sit down at a table with them until the 10th touch, because they don't want you in their office, or they just, that's just where we are today. So what are you doing for the other 9 touches before you have that sit down meeting? And I think, again, you better have, as a salesperson, we better have great questions. I think we need to be able to move that conversation along by continuing to have done our research. And let me give you an example. One of the things that I've learned 2 years ago, I love telling stories, Zach. I'm a sales guy. So 2 years ago, my insurance agent, we moved down to North Carolina, and I hired a new insurance agent. Wanted to stay with the same carrier, but wanted to, I had to get a new agent. And he realized the business I was in, and he said, John, I'd really love to talk to you about marketing and sales, because of your background. And I said, great. And so we got on the phone one day and we started talking. Now, this is 2 years ago. We get to talking, and he says, here's a great tool that I use. And he says, I use Loom Video, not Zoom, Loom, LOOM.com, Loom Video. There's another one out there called Vidyard that's very similar, Vidyard and Loom. There's also one called Cloud App. All 3 of those are video conference, or where you take and you video your computer screen, and in the corner you have yourself talking as if you're doing a Zoom meeting, but I don't have you across from me, Zach. I don't see you, so I'm talking to you in this video. I create this little mini video, and then I send it to you. My agent was doing this 2 years ago, where he would create a Loom video about my policy. He'd send me the Loom video, and he'd say, okay, John, and he's circling all the things on the policy and saying, here's what I think you need for your home, and these are the reasons why I think you need this in your home, okay, or this policy for your home. And he does this in about a 2 to 3 minute video, and he sends it to me in an email, and he says, John, when you've had a chance to watch this, give me a call and let's discuss. And if I don't hear from you in the next week, I'll call you next Tuesday. Think about this. This is 2 years ago, pre-COVID. Today, think of the impact of doing something like that with your client. I mean, I can't sit down with you, Zach, and have a face-to-face conversation. I can explain my product though to you in a Loom video, because if we're talking on the phone and I'm trying to explain a product that's somewhat a little bit challenging, that's tough. All right. What if I put in a Loom video and in 2 minutes I can show you what Matterport looks like. I can show you the tools that we're going to use when we come into your client's building or their home. I can talk about our procedures and our processes of how we take care of your customer. I can do a lot of different things in this, send it to you, and then say, watch on your own time, and then let's follow up and have a discussion about how I can help you. That is a great touch. Talk about giving the personal touch, and a lot of salespeople are not using this tool to its full benefit yet. I think if you use Loom Video today, you're going to be ahead of the curve 3, 4, 5 months down the road, because once everybody begins to realize that power of that tool, you're going to be fighting just like everybody else with emails. You're going to become just a piece of the email chain, right?
Totally. Actually, you know what? We had a question from a viewer here, and
Yeah.
I didn't stop you because you were answering it. Actually,
I'm sorry, I was rambling.
No, you were serendipitously answering the question that you didn't know was up there. So the question was, what tools should I be implementing into my business to have success in sales during COVID moving into the fall? So you were talking about Loom, which is huge. Yeah. The only thing is, is there any other tool that you've seen or have been using or people on that you recommend people check out?
Yeah, this is a great tool. You're going to love this one. I believe I created Zach back in I guess it was May, when we were in the midst, or April, when we were in the midst of shelter in place. I created what was called the Daily Weekly Sales Playbook. And it's what every salesperson should be doing, whether you're in the restoration industry, no matter what industry you're in. It's relative. And what it does is it talks about taking your normal day when you would have gone out and knocked on 5, 10, 15 doors. What does your day look like now if you can't do that? And one of the tools that I'm recommending to everybody that they use is the good old-fashioned mail, good old Pony Express. We have gotten away from that. Everything has gone digital. Everything's email, right? I finished talking with you, Zach, and I hop off the video conference and I send you an email and say, hey, Zach, thank you for your time today. Thank you for letting me be a part of this. And you go, yada, yada, yada. Great. And John's just another email in my millions of emails I'm getting. When's the last time you got a personalized thank you card from a client saying, hey, thank you, or from a speaker saying, hey, Zach, thank you for letting me be on your show? That's just a tool that I think has become obsolete. We've all forgotten about it because of technology. Sit down, write out a quick note. I'm not saying all 10 clients that you went and saw or talked to on the phone today you do this with, but maybe pick out 2, 3 of them, handwrite a note in your own handwriting. Say, hey, Zach, thank you today for the time. I really appreciate you letting me be a part of your network, and I really appreciate the information that you allowed me to share. John Monroe, sign it. What a fantastic tool, and I will tell you, it works. People will recognize what an impact it has on them by writing a personal handwritten note to them and sending it in the good old U.S. mail.
Cool. No, that's great. I think that is, it's funny that we're pulling up tactics that were maybe just more commonplace years ago, but I I remember doing that with, I used to have a home service franchise, and we would just actually put in when it was Easter or when it was Labor Day or whatever, it was a little card to all the people that, you were still trying to touch base with. And it was an excuse just to say, hey, have a great Easter. Hopefully we can do some work together in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a forgotten tool. It's absolutely. Let me jump on, and I'll give you one more tool that I think has also been forgotten, and that is pre-calling somebody. Okay, so go back to my daily, weekly sales playbook, and we as salespeople have lost the element of preparing you, Zach. Okay, so I have a route, and I'm gonna call on 10 people today, right? And I just jump in my car and I just show up, right? I just show up at your place of business and I walk in. You don't know that I'm coming. You may or may not be there. You may or may not have time for me. But we've gotten into a habit of doing that as salespeople. We have forgotten the very fundamental tool of letting people know we're coming to see them so they can be prepared for us. We're afraid that if we call them and say, hey, Zach, I'm going to be in this week on Thursday to see you. I just wanted to give you a heads up. If you have any questions for me, I'll be in there sometime first thing in the morning or sometime in the afternoon. I don't pin myself down in case, something happens and I get long-winded at a client before and it pushes me into the afternoon to see you. And that way you're not waiting around for me. Now, if you and I want to have a sit-down meeting, okay, that's a whole different story. Now we're going to set a time. But if I'm just swinging by, pick up the phone. This is another part of the playbook is pick up the phone on Monday, call everybody that you're planning to go see and say, are you open? Are you accepting salespeople coming in your place of business? And I was going to be there on Thursday. Would that be okay to stop in? Is there any protocol, whether I should wear a face mask or, whatever, do I need to be prepared for some type of protocol to come into your building? And that is, again, a tool that we as salespeople, I think, have forgotten to do. We don't make that pre-phone call and let people know that we're coming to see them. I'll give you a good story, Zach. I know and I keep this one shorter than my last one, I promise. I used to, so when I was in sales, again, remember, this was in the beginning when there was no internet, so you didn't have emails, right? And you used the good old mail system. And I used to buy the pre-stamped postcards from the U.S. Post Office. And I had a rubber stamp, and I would rubber stamp on this postcard. On the back of it, it would say, Dear Blank, and I'm going to be in your area on, and blank again, and I would say, what day and time, or what day and week, and then I would say, I'm going to be there approximately, and then it would say either evening, or, afternoon, or morning, right? And if for any reason you're not going to be, you won't be in the office and I can't meet with you, please let your people know that I will be there, or please call me and let me know that day is not going to be good for you. Thank you, John Monroe. And I would leave John Monroe blank so I could sign it personally. So they knew that I filled this card out. I used to send those out a week in advance. So on Monday, I would put those in the mail for the following week. And all my clients knew that I would be in the following week someday, whatever I told them on that postcard that I was coming. I used to get all sorts of compliments from my clients saying, wow, you're the only sales rep that I ever know when they're coming in the door. I really appreciate that. It's a tool that we, again, have abandoned, and I think it's a good tool, whether it's phone call or that good old postcard. Let your customers know that you're coming.
That's great. No, that's awesome. And again, it ties into that having to, that 7 to 10 little touches, right? That just gets one out of the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Cool. We actually have another question from a viewer here. What steps do I need to take right now to start developing my own daily sales playbook in my company?
What steps should you take? I would say your steps are, first look at what are you doing. Let's go backwards. Let's look at your sales plan, right? You hopefully created a sales plan at the beginning of the year, and your sales plan outlines who your target market is, who you were going to call on, right? And then you had some sort of sales plan or approach to calling on those people, and you had some sort of action step. So hopefully you already had, some sort of plan as to how, and remember, this was pre-COVID, you had some sort of plan as to how you were going to make those sales calls. And if after March 13th, you had to revise that sales plan. So if you haven't revised it and you're trying to create a plan, what I would say is, first thing, sit down, take your route or your list of who you were normally going to call on. Okay, if you were calling on your client base every 3-4 weeks, take that list, stay with that plan, and come up with a plan of, I'm going to call all those folks on Monday and confirm that they're going to be in their offices, or that I can call them either this week or next week. Okay, whatever the schedule is. If you can, I'm careful, a little bit careful. A lot of salespeople say, well, I don't want to go out 2 weeks in advance because things change. I understand that. But at the same time, if the longer you can give your client notice, if you're coming in just to see them, and especially in the restoration industry, if I call on Monday for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm probably okay. You're probably not going to offend anybody. If you can give them till the next week, as long as they remember to write it down somewhere that you're coming to see them a week from now, that's good. That's why I always like the postcard, because they had a hard copy of it, and hopefully they made a mental note or put it on their calendar. But I think you really ought to get into the habit of making phone calls to your client or your base, your route, whatever you want to call it, your sales call plan, who you're going to go see. Sit down and start making those phone calls. I think that's the most priority thing you can do. Secondly, go back to, okay, what am I going to talk about on that sales call? Or what am I going to talk about on that phone call, right? If you're not going to see them and you're going to have the phone conversation, what's that phone conversation look like? Okay, have you met the client before, or have you not met the client before? What does the conversation look like? And pre-plan each of those calls, right? Have a plan, especially if you're on the phone, because you hop on the phone and I just start jabbering with you, Zach, you're going to probably hang up on me pretty quickly. So I better have a plan. I'm going to spend a minute talking about how's the weather, and then the next 3, 4, 5 minutes, I'm going to talk about something relevant that I need to have a discussion with you about. Okay.
Cool.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So just for starters, then to Joe, who asked this question, actually. So
Yeah.
KnowHow take a look at KnowHow. We've got a free template in there that has this all laid out. And so you've got, the first step is always a couple minutes of rapport. And then you should explain an agenda. And then you should walk into, making sure you align on needs. And we can continue to chat here with John about that. But it sounds like you're saying, hey, make sure that you've got just a small amount of time to hit that rapport, and then make sure that you tell them what the rest of this call, conversation, Zoom video is going to be.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's right.
Okay.
We're all very busy, Zach. I mean, that hasn't changed since COVID hit us. We're all still very busy, and we all still have a lot on our plates. And so you don't have, as I said, you probably got less time now today talking to somebody on the phone or on a Zoom call than you did when you were meeting them in person. So yeah, be organized, have a plan. One of the things, 4 easy steps, and this is a good answer for you, Joe, is have an objective for the sales call. Okay, whether it's on a phone or Zoom or in person, whatever it is, have an objective for that call. Why am I calling Zach? What is the strategy of that objective? Okay, why am I calling Zach, and how am I going to reach that goal? What is my strategy to reach that objective? Okay, maybe I'm going to ask 5 key questions, or maybe I'm going to present something to Zach about, a product that I want him to see. Maybe I'm going to share something with him on the screen as far as a tool or an idea. Okay, so have a strategy. Then finally have have your results. Mark down what was your result of this phone call. Okay, so have an objective, have a strategy, have the results. Make sure that you know what you want. You always hear the story about athletes looking into what they expect the play to look like or how they expect the game to progress, right? They vision it out. So, yeah, okay. The same with your sales call. You need to have a vision of what do you want the end result to be. So what do I expect to get out of this call? And then what is my follow-up? Okay, my follow-up should then turn around and be my next touch or my next objective, right? Zach says, well, John, I'm interested in your company. How about you send me something about your company? Okay, so I can either send an email with my brochure in it. Better yet, I can send a Loom video with information about my company. I could take the website and put it on Loom, and I could be talking about and clicking the buttons on the website and showing you what we do and how we do it. Hopefully our website's up to date and it's got good information out there. So objective, strategy for the objective, results, know what you want to get out of it, and then what's your next follow-up. That's the fundamental of every meeting you have with any client or any touch that you have.
Awesome. Okay. So then what's this playbook then? I know that part of Joe's question here was daily. Do you have things? I mean, that's a great playbook for a sales call. Do you have things that, you know, when you train a sales team or you maybe yourself when you were doing sales that you were like, oh, I got to make sure that it's a daily process, Monday through Friday, this gets done?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the number one thing is having your notes. Okay, using some sort of CRM or some sort of mechanism so that you can write all this information down. You know, Zach, we're making 5, 10, 15 calls a day. I don't remember what I did this morning, right? I got to write it down. I'm a huge fan of my iPad, and everything I have a conversation with, I'm writing down notes. Okay, so I think it's imperative that the salesperson sit down on a daily basis and make sure they update their CRM or the system that they're using to keep notes in about their sales call. Two things come out of that. If I'm your sales manager, it allows me to know what you're doing, and especially in COVID today, you know, you say, well, hey boss, I only went and saw 5 people, right? Well, what did you do the rest of the day, right? So you need to have a CRM and be able to show that, okay, I made a Loom video and I sent that Loom video out to a handful of clients. I wrote 3 personal letters to these clients about our services we offer. I wrote 4 personal emails, and I did a mass email to all of our client base today. I did some research. Okay, you need to be tracking what your day entails. Salespeople, and especially today where you're not out traveling around, it's so easy for your day to get away from you. You need to have a plan for what you want to accomplish today. How many people do you want to touch? Okay, and that touch again can be multiple ways, but how many people do you plan to touch today? What are you, by touching that person, what is the objective of the touch, and what do you expect to get out of that touch? What's it going to lead to next? I think that that's the most important thing a sales manager and a salesperson can do, and the sales manager can hold the salesperson accountable for, is setting a schedule for that day. Who are they going to touch, and how are they going to touch, and what is going to be accomplished on that touch? I think it's imperative. Did that answer that question, Zach? I'm hoping.
Yeah, it did. So I think the big thing is making sure that you're tracking everything, because daily actions are actually just almost, it's like having a little garden in your ground. You got to make sure you weed it and water it and pick the fruit, and it's a daily thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you can't remember everything in your head. I mean, you can't look. You get to the end of the week, and on Friday you're whooped, and I don't remember what I did or said on Monday. My goodness. So yeah, sit down daily and create a task list for yourself, if you want to call it that. What am I going to accomplish? And then make sure you put notes in some system that you're using to track what is it that you did and said. Keep copious notes. And that's
Okay.
pre-COVID versus today. I think that's a good sales tool, no matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Right. It allows you to be personal with every call because you don't have to keep all those details rattling around in your head. You can pull up your notes.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Zach, for sure.
So, in terms of kind of maybe walking down the sales process, we've talked about a lot of tactics that allow you to get around the social distancing barriers. When you use some of these tactics, is there anything that you need to keep in mind as to how to intro them or follow up on them at all?
Yeah, I think that the intros, or let's so the tactics that you're introducing or that you're wanting to utilize, I think that make sure that you always have a set plan as to what. Don't shotgun the plan, okay? If you want to take a very rifled approach today, and you did pre-COVID, but you need to have an outline of what you're anticipating this sales process to look like. Where, again, I recognize, I know you touch somebody and you don't know where that touch may go, but ultimately, again, think out a little bit and think of the alternatives. Which way, if I touch Zach in this way, what are the different ways he can react to this, right? It's either, no, I'm not interested in you, or yes, I'm interested in you and I want to talk to you more about this. Okay, well, it's either yes or no, right? I think you need to be playing out your process, your touches. I think you need to know, have an understanding of what way it can go. Have a plan, as well as when you're talking to somebody, which way it's going to go. I think that playing out your conversation. Okay, I used to do this when I first got into sales, and I still coach salespeople on this, is role play, right? Get in front of a mirror. Now you can do it on a computer. Goodness, sit down on a computer and role play the conversation. Okay, talk the call through. I think it's a very good process. So, I think the best way to plan out your tactics or utilize those tactics is think about the tactic you're using. How is it going to help you move the needle? Is it going to move the needle the way you wanted? And if it does, what is your next tactic to put in play? Or if it doesn't work, then what is your next tactic to play out?
Okay. So just to touch back really quickly on the doing some of the dry run or the play acting of the actual the sales process, hopping on a Zoom call, even with your partner or friend in the next room, is better probably because it gets you used to the technology.
Absolutely. I think that, Zach, that's a great point. Absolutely. Again, Zach, I can't tell you the amount of salespeople that I talked to, and especially probably the first 30 days when we went into shelter in place, how many salespeople resisted. And look, I do this on a daily basis. I've gone from, and this was pre-COVID. I mean, remember, I work out of the house, and my whole day is spent on the phone. And I would say that 90% of the calls I do are now video calls. I don't do phone calls anymore. I do video calls. And I've gotten into the habit of it because I want to be able to see my client's face. I want the client to see my face. I want to have interaction with them and see their body language. I want to know whether they're paying attention to me, whether I'm paying attention to them, right? And so I've gotten comfortable with that process. Salespeople, they're not so comfortable with this, and I think it's something you said very well. Practice doing a Zoom call. Practice having a video conference call, whether it's with your neighbor next door in the other office, or your boss, or your dog, whoever, have somebody across the table sitting there on the Zoom video conference call and be talking to them, and learn how to practice that. It's very, very important.
Cool. Yeah, because if I'm, I think that I can see, and you actually just alluded to it right away, salespeople have a way that they've learned how to do it. And so the adaptation process can be a little rocky, a little rough, but it's like anything. You got to kind of inch into it and kind of, one step at a time.
Practice, right? I mean, every athlete practices. Same with a salesperson. You got to practice the tool that you're wanting to implement and use.
Cool. Okay. I know that some people, Zoom has actually just hopped up. It's a little feature currently where you can blank your own face out. You can actually just mute your own video, because some people have a hard time seeing themselves and having a conversation too. However, I think that it's something that you've actually touched on multiple times during the conversation here, is that personability is still really important. So irrespective of whether or not it's on a digital medium, it needs to come through. So don't mute your video. Get used to it. Get comfortable with it. Make sure that you're comfortable shooting yourself in a small Loom video, and really work on the personability through a phone call if that's the medium you're choosing to go with as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. And you need to get comfortable with your look, salespeople. You've noticed me, I keep talking with my hands, okay? And you need to be able to show expression on that call when you're doing a Zoom video call, because again, go back to the fact that I can see you, you can see me, and it's so important that it's just like doing an in-person call now. I can see your body language. I can see your eyes rolling back in your head if you're, thinking, oh my gosh, when is this guy going to shut up? All sorts of things. I can see that now. And so and that's important. I think it's a needed aspect. And I think a good salesperson, we teach this when you go in and you make a sales call. We talk about reading body language and watching people and analyzing people and knowing when to make the close, right? Or knowing where you are in the sales process as you're talking. I can read you and start understanding, are you ready for me to say, Zach, let's move this to this direction, right? Or no, this isn't the right time. I'm getting resistance from Zach. In a Zoom video call, you can do that also. I can watch you, and a good salesperson will start picking up on cues, body cues, eye cues, facial cues of how you're reacting. So I think that's very important. If you're constantly looking over to the side, I know you're looking at your phone. And that means you're not paying attention to me or listening to what I'm saying. So I've lost you. I need to bring this video call back into, hey, Zach, pay attention to me, man. I got something I need to say to you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Especially the sound of a keyboard or a video game. Or
That's right. Yeah. That's a great point. Exactly. If you start hearing the keyboard, you know that they've got something else up on their screen. They're not listening to you. That's a great point, Zach. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We're so used to multitasking on digital medium that it's actually sometimes harder to hang on to someone's attention.
That's right. Yeah. So that's something you really, I love that where you took this one. So yeah, Zoom video calls really need to practice, and you need to hone your skills as a salesperson to understand what you're hearing, what's going on, and ultimately try and pull that customer back into wanting to listen to you. That's a great, yeah.
Great. So maybe this is as a quick summary here. Make sure that you're really utilizing Zoom video, that you're using phone calls, that you're not forgetting about some of the older tactics like postcards or pre-calling, things that allow you to actually sort of touch the customer, so to speak, in a few more ways, because you can't just rely on, being a super outgoing, gregarious person and waltzing into someone's office anymore. Even if that worked real great for you, you got to find a way to transition that into digital media. And then also don't underutilize the ability to still read body language and see someone's face digitally as well, even if it's pre-recorded or if it's live.
Absolutely.
Great.
And one final one there, Zach, is don't forget about social media, utilizing social media, LinkedIn especially, or the internet to start researching your client. Okay, get back to the fundamentals of knowing who, because again, if you're doing that video call or you're doing that phone call, you've got less time than you did when you and I sat down face to face and had a meeting. So you need to know more about me, and you need to understand more about my needs and my pains than you did when we had the face to face meetings. Be more prepared, better prepared for the sales call than ever.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks for touching on that again, because it doesn't matter how great you are if they don't sort of, see you as an equal human, and you get a bit of humanity in there, they won't want to hear the pitch, or they won't make it to the pitch.
Absolutely. Yep.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks very much, John. It's been great. So hopefully everyone took away a couple of pointers here. So we just, thanks again to our panelists, John Monroe from Violand Management Associates. To everyone listening, I hope you'll join us for our next webinar next Wednesday. And thanks to our industry partners. So thanks to Business Mentors, Ask Amy, Violand Management Associates, and Core Group. And so from all of us at KnowHow, thanks very much for joining us.